The 1980s were drenched in fake blood and fear. It was the golden age of slashers, when masked killers ruled theaters and VHS shelves overflowed with gore. But behind the fun came panic. Governments called it moral decay, newspapers screamed about corrupting the youth, and a new label was born, the video nasty. Across the world, censors went to war with horror. Films were seized, edited beyond recognition, or banned outright. Some directors were even dragged into court for showing too much blood. These are 10 banned 80s slasher films you weren't supposed to see. And number 10 was outlawed almost everywhere. Number 1, Anthropophagus, 1980. If there was ever a film that defined the phrase too far, this is it. Anthropophagus, also known as the Grim Reaper, is an Italian shocker about a group of tourists stranded on a remote Greek island, stalked by a starving cannibal who's eaten his way past sanity. It's slow, grim, and utterly revolting. But one scene turned it into legend. In the finale, the cannibal tears open a pregnant woman and devours her unborn child before meeting his own gruesome end, literally eating his own intestines as he dies. That single moment made history. The film was banned almost everywhere. The United Kingdom, Germany, and Australia all outlawed it under obscenity laws. For years, it circulated only through grainy bootlegs and whispered rumors among horror fans. Today, Anthropophagus is considered one of the most infamous video nasties ever made. Number 2, The New York Ripper, 1982. If Anthropophagus was disturbing, The New York Ripper was pure nightmare fuel. Directed by Lucio Fulci, the so-called godfather of gore, this film pushed the slasher genre into truly sick territory. It followed a detective hunting a sadistic killer loose in New York City, a man who mocked police over the phone with a warped duck-like voice. The murders were filmed in excruciating close-up. Victims weren't just attacked. They were tortured on camera, with the camera refusing to look away. Fulci's mix of violence and sexual imagery went far beyond what censors would tolerate. When it reached the British Board of Film Classification, the reviewer reportedly called it the most damaging film I've ever seen. The United Kingdom banned it instantly. Australia followed. Even decades later, it remained cut by over 20 seconds. To this day, The New York Ripper divides horror fans. Some praise its style, others despise its cruelty. Number 3, Maniac, 1980. Before gore-heavy horror became mainstream, one movie showed just how ugly it could get. Maniac, directed by William Lustig, follows Frank Zito, a sweaty, paranoid loner stalking the streets of New York. He doesn't just kill, he scalps his victims and keeps their hair on mannequins like twisted trophies. The film's most infamous scene became horror legend. Tom Savini, who also worked on Friday the 13th, created a shocking effect where a man's head explodes from a shotgun blast in slow motion. It looked so real. Audiences screamed, and censors pulled the plug. Critics walked out, theaters refused to show it, and countries like Germany and the United Kingdom banned it entirely. Even when it was finally released decades later, parts were still cut for extreme violence. Yet Maniac survived. Today it's viewed as a grim cult classic, part character study, part nightmare, and one of the few slashers that still feels genuinely unsafe to watch. Number 4, Nightmare, 1981. If there was ever a film that lived up to its title, this was it. Nightmare, also known as Nightmare in a Damaged Brain, blurred the line between horror and psychological collapse. It follows a man haunted by traumatic visions who escapes from an institution and spirals into a spree of murder and madness. The violence was relentless. Throats are torn open, skulls split by axes, and blood splattered the camera lens. Director Romano Scavolini didn't cut away. Every gruesome detail was shown in full. The result felt more like a fever dream than a movie. The British censors were horrified. Nightmare was banned outright, labeled obscene, and its distributor was actually sent to prison for refusing to cut just one violent second of footage. That moment cemented its reputation as the nastiest of the video nasties. For years, the movie was completely forbidden, traded only through bootleg tapes passed hand to hand. Today, it's uncut and freely available, but it still feels like you're watching something you shouldn't. Number 5. Absurd, 1981. This one earns its name. Absurd, directed by Joe D'Amato, was Italy's gleefully disgusting answer to Halloween. It follows Mekos, a man whose body can regenerate, turning him into an unstoppable killing machine loose in small-town America. Every death scene goes for broke. A nurse gets a drill through her skull. A teen is impaled with a pickaxe. One woman's face is shoved into an oven and burned before her suffering is ended with scissors. D'Amato didn't care about suspense, just shock, gore, and excess. Censors couldn't believe what they were watching. The United Kingdom banned it instantly, and even prosecuted it under obscenity laws, making Absurd one of only 39 films ever successfully convicted. For decades, it was illegal to own an uncut copy. It wasn't until 2017 that fans finally saw it in full, restored, uncut, and proudly as revolting as ever. Proof that sometimes, horror doesn't need logic, just carnage. Number 6. The Burning, 1981. Every summer camp horror movie owes something to The Burning. Released just a year after Friday the 13th, it told the story of Cropsey, a caretaker burned alive by prankster kids who comes back for revenge armed with a pair of garden shears. At first glance, it looked like another campfire slasher. But then came that scene, the Raft Massacre. In less than a minute, Cropsey leaps from the shadows, slicing through teenagers with throat slashes and chopped fingers that looked terrifyingly real. Makeup legend Tom Savini delivered effects so convincing that censors immediately freaked out. When The Burning hit VHS in Britain, it was seized by police under the Obscene Publications Act and branded a video nasty. For years, fans could only find it through underground copies. Even when the ban was lifted, over 30 seconds of gore stayed missing until 2001. Now it's hailed as a cult classic, not just for its blood-soaked carnage, but for giving early roles to Jason Alexander and Holly Hunter before they escaped to much cleaner careers. Number 7. Tenebrae, 1982. From the twisted mind of Dario Argento came Tenebrae, a sleek Italian giallo that turned murder into an art form. The film follows an American writer in Rome whose books inspire a real killer to copy his fictional murders, leading to a chain of razor-slashed victims drenched in neon light. Argento shot every death like a painting, throats opened in slow motion, blood spraying across white walls, and an axe sequence so vivid that Italian censors demanded he cut the blood spray in half. But British authorities were far less forgiving. They banned Tenebrae completely, calling it corrupt and dangerous, especially because some killings blended nudity with violence. Even the film's poster showing a woman with her throat cut had to be changed for UK release. When Tenebrae finally returned decades later, it was hailed as a masterpiece. Number 8. My Bloody Valentine, 1981. Only in the 80s could a Valentine's Day movie end with a pickaxe to the face. My Bloody Valentine takes place in a small Canadian mining town haunted by an old tragedy and by a killer dressed in full mining gear, complete with gas mask and heart-shaped boxes that don't contain candy. The gore was incredible for its time. A boiling human heart in a pot of hot dogs, a woman impaled on a shower head, and several victims with their hearts torn out as twisted gifts. The MPAA, however, saw none of that as romantic. They forced the filmmakers to remove nearly 9 minutes of bloody footage to avoid an X rating. Fans would spend decades trading rumors about those lost scenes until the uncut version finally surfaced in 2009. Today, My Bloody Valentine is proof that no matter how hard censors swing their scissors, horror fans will always dig the bodies back up. Number 9. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 1986. By the mid-80s, horror fans thought they'd seen it all. Then Tobe Hooper came back swinging and chainsawing. A decade after his groundbreaking original, he turned the sequel into a grotesque carnival of blood and black comedy. Leatherface was back, joined by his unhinged cannibal family, slicing their way through Texas with chainsaws, hammers, and human skin masks. This time, nothing was left to the imagination. Victims were skinned alive, heads were sawed open, and one poor soul had his face peeled off like a Halloween prop. Tom Savini's practical effects made it look horrifyingly real. Censors around the world lost their minds. The United Kingdom demanded more than 20 minutes of cuts. Germany banned it entirely, and Australia kept it locked away for 2 decades. Even the United States released it unrated because the MPA refused to touch it. Today, Chainsaw 2 stands as the ultimate outlaw of 1980s horror, a splatter-soaked masterpiece that proved you can't censor chaos. Number 10, Don't Go in the Woods Alone. 1981. Cheap, chaotic, and completely shameless, this film became infamous not for its quality, but for its carnage. Follows a group of campers stalked by a feral mountain man who kills just about everyone he meets: hikers, birdwatchers, even people in wheelchairs. The effects were crude, but the body count was enormous. Nearly every scene ended in another messy death, from decapitations to bear traps snapping shut on screaming victims. It wasn't polished, it wasn't artistic, but it was bloody, and that was enough to get it banned. The United Kingdom added it to the video nasty blacklist, claiming it had no moral or cinematic value. For years, fans could only watch it through grainy bootlegs until it was finally cleared for release in 2007. It's campy, ridiculous, and oddly charming, the kind of movie that reminds you censorship isn't always about quality. Sometimes it's just about how much red hits the screen. Looking back, it's wild to think how much panic these films caused. In the 80s, governments raided video stores. Reporters claimed horror movies would rot your brain, and entire countries tried to erase gore from their screens. But the truth is, the bans only made the legends stronger. Every time a title was pulled, fans wanted it more. Every censored scene became a mystery to uncover. And when those uncut versions finally resurfaced, the horror community treated them like buried treasure. What began as moral outrage ended up creating a generation of devoted fans. People who saw these so-called obscene films not as trash, but as raw expressions of creativity pushed to the edge. These movies didn't just survive censorship, they thrived because of it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more hidden stories from the dark side of cinema.